Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Attention Dog Video. I'm your host, ADHD and Attention Coach Jeff Copper. We're here today with Dr. Roberto Olivardia, and we're talking about using marijuana and cannabis for medicinal or self-medication purposes. And when I first heard him talk about that, I never really made a distinction between medicinal and self-regulation. I think it was, I'm grateful he would come on to share his knowledge. So, Dr. Roberto Olivardia, what is medicinal purposes and what is self-medication purposes?
Yeah, that a lot of times, so with medicinal purposes, we're looking at a treatment, something that is treating the ailment or the illness that's enabling somebody to connect and engage with their lives and move forward in healthy ways, learning skills of how to cope with whatever that ailment or that illness is. Or in some cases, when we're talking about medicinal, something that could be eradicating the illness. Whereas with self-medication, it's something that in the moment could quell the symptom, but in the long term, not only is not helping, but could actually be making the person more vulnerable to that illness or to that ailment, is often numbing them or disengaging them from their life and from ways of learning how to deal with that. So one is with medicinal is the hope is that it engages you more with your everyday living and life.
Mm-hmm.
With self-medicating, it's actually removing someone in the long term. Again, in that moment, someone can feel like it's helping them engage, but in the long term, it's actually making them more vulnerable to disengage.
So to kind of bring this to around very ADD examples is we've done a lot of Attention Talk radio episodes and some video on boredom. Those with ADHD experience more what's called agitated boredom, which is a physical discomfort to where you're motivated to escape the plight. In other words, when you're bored, you're physically uncomfortable, kind of like that tiger pacing in the cage. They're so bored, they're moving back and forth to release that energy. People with ADHD, when they're bored, it's kind of funny because in coaching over the years for my people that have been through some type of recovery program, they talk about it's more difficult to self-regulate when you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and I say bored and stressed. So a lot of times people, when they're bored with something or they're dealing with some type of anxiety, like they're struggling with ambiguity on something, they're going to take a break and self-medicate by going on YouTube or social media and find themselves a couple hours later. So they're going there because they're physically uncomfortable and they're escaping it by going to something that reduces that anxiety and stuff, but they're not really kind of going forward. As I describe that, is that an accurate kind of example, tangible example to understand what self-medicating is and how it's not improving the situation? It's just putting a Band-Aid on your emotions in that moment.
Definitely. And boredom is actually one of the biggest triggers that I hear from patients in terms of using cannabis, that it just kind of helps them relieve that. And the legitimate issue is that we know people with ADHD get bored, more easily. But that's not a treatment for it. A treatment would be, how do we come up with ways, behavioral ways, as we see with more cognitive behavioral therapy, in terms of developing activities and things to do that will help relieve that boredom. How do you set up your environment in those kinds of ways? Because what we know is what cannabis actually does to a developing brain is it actually alters the dendritic architecture. And dendrites are, if you think of them as almost like tree branches and the brains between nerve cells, that it actually shortens the length of dendritic architecture in the brain. So it makes you less able to come up with new ideas and to problem solve, because as we all know, for people with ADHD, this is a lifelong issue. You don't get rid of your ADHD. So we definitely want to equip people with actual tools that will help them with boredom or with whatever state that they might find very uncomfortable.
So there, in the end, people with ADHD, the medicinal purpose and self-medication is really to feel better and kind of feel better, but the medicinal is really kind of to feel better and improve yourself kind of moving forward, where self-medicating might be kind of keeping you stuck in the same place. I mean, is that a good distinction between the two?
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of times people will say it's medicinal. Well, first of all, just to clarify, that it is not FDA approved as a medicine or treatment for ADHD. There are a lot of social media videos that talk about it as medicine. That cannabis is approved for some forms of epilepsy, and the HIV wasting syndrome. I mean, there are some medical ailments in which you might see it have a medicinal purpose. It is not medicinal for ADHD, just from a technical level,
Yep.
because even that, I'll hear patients that are like, oh no, I heard it's, a medicine for ADHD, and they've seen TikTok
Yep.
videos and things like that that are so misinformed.
So yeah, TikTok is usually somebody's opinion. Dr. Olivaria has researched this. We're sharing this stuff within you. So you can't believe everything that you see on TikTok. And I'm seeing more and more people gravitating that, and more amateurs declaring themselves medical experts. So anyway, Dr. Olivaria, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, our purpose here was really to make that distinction so people have that awareness. For those that are new to our channel, please hit our subscribe button. We release a tip or insight each week. Also, for our existing subscribers, please leave a comment interested in your thoughts on this. And for those who want to support our channel, hit the thanks button. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk Video. Take care.